Welcome to the Fear and Greed Afternoon Report for Thursday, the 7th of July, 2022. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Let's jump into it. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 finished up 0.8% today to close at 6,648 points. It was a strong day for the big miners after they lost ground yesterday. BHP jumped more than 3% and Fortescue and Rio Tinto were both up more than 4%. South32 jumped nearly 5% after its big slump yesterday. The big banks were all higher, led by ANZ, which rose 1.8%, and Commonwealth Bank, which was up 1.2%. Telstra was an underperformer, falling more than 1%. There was a fair bit of movement among some of the smaller stocks. Buy now, pay later group Zipco's share price tumbled more than 5% and is now down 95% since its peak early last year. Investment bank UBS put out a note saying it was concerned about Zip's bad debts. The buy now, pay later group hopes to complete a merger with Sezzle in coming months. EML Payments was another to slump, finishing down nearly 10% after being downgraded by analysts from RBC. RBC is also an investment bank. Earlier in the week, EML jumped 10% after winning a deal with the Spanish government to issue 500,000 prepaid cards. Chalice Mining was among the best performers, up 6.7% after reporting good news on a nickel copper platinum project, but the best on the day was biotech Imugene. Story number 2, Russia's ambassador to Australia claims relations between Canberra and Moscow have reached their lowest point in decades. Not really surprising. Alexei Pavlovsky was interviewed on ABC's Radio National program this morning and rejected any suggestion that his country's invasion of Ukraine was a war, accused the media of biased reporting, and denied Russia was responsible for hurting the global economy. He said the severe shortages of wheat and soaring gas and fuel prices was the fault of the West. Story number 3, Canadian group Dye & Durham has upped its bid for share registry and superannuation administrator company Link Group. Well, it's actually upped its lower offer. It was enough to send Link's share price up 6% today to $4.07. The new offer at $4.70 a share is 10 cents higher than the previous bid, but well below the original offer last December. That was $5.50. That original bid was cut on the back of turmoil in financial markets and concerns over regulatory approval. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission has already issued a draft ruling saying it has significant preliminary competition concerns about any deal, specifically around Link's 42.8% holding in the PEXA electronic conveyancing business. Pull all that together, what's it mean? Well, at a share price of $4.07, investors still think a $4.70 deal may not make it. Story number 4, the US Federal Reserve has set up the potential for another 75 basis point rate hike at its policy meeting later this month. In the minutes of its June meeting, the Fed quoted the resolve of the Reserve Bank of Australia, Reserve Bank of New Zealand and Bank of Canada to highlight its determination to aggressively tighten and keep a lid on inflation in the world's largest economy. 10 of the 11 Fed presidents voting on the decision supported the 75 basis point move. And finally, story number 5, well, United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson still has his job, but only just. Overnight, more than 30 government ministers or aides quit, and many MPs urged Mr Johnson to resign, including cabinet ministers who went to number 10 Downing Street to plead with him. In terms of his prime ministership, it's a pretty fair call to say it's almost over. Mr Johnson himself has vowed to fight on, saying he has a mandate from voters to steer Britain into its post-Brexit future. A vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister failed last month, and under current rules, another can't be held for a year, but lawmakers are now considering changing that. That's it for the afternoon report for Thursday, the 7th of July, 2022. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook. Join Michael Thompson and I tomorrow morning for the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, the top 5 business stories you need to know in 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.